Democrats raised tens of millions of dollars in the first 24 hours after Vice President Kamala Harris became the frontrunner to replace President Joe Biden on the 2024 presidential ballot. President Biden announced that he will not be seeking re-election after all, but almost in the same breath endorsed Vice President Harris. Hours later, groups around the country and here in Tennessee were on Zoom calls, and they were trying to raise support and, most importantly, money for Vice President Harris. I don't even know if she put out a statement at that point yet to accept the endorsement from President Biden. I think it was pretty close. It was within, a few hours or so. Either way, we've got a new race on our hands. I try to avoid talking too much about politics, especially during an election year, mainly because of you.
Just putting it out there.
Let's be honest, okay? Everyone has an opinion and they're entitled to their opinion. I just don't need to see you typing out things in all caps in the comments. And you're gonna do it anyway. I usually leave the politics to my good friend Ashlyn, she talks about politics. This time, however, we're making an exception because we are in what I keep hearing are unprecedented times. I don't know how many times we have to go through unprecedented times in our lifetime, but we have seen quite a few. Did you know that there are only 7 U.S. presidents who did not seek re-election even though they were eligible? We are watching one of them now. That would make it 8, I guess. There's going to be a lot happening in the next few weeks. Where's the DNC this year? Is it Chicago?
Chicago.
Okay. Democrats have a renewed sense of energy from what just happened. Republicans have a renewed sense of energy from what just happened a couple weeks ago. Mr. Callen, you have the floor.
A lot of parallels are being drawn to
Lyndon B. Johnson? Okay.
That was the most recent one. Johnson was Kennedy's vice president when Kennedy was shot. Took over, did win an election in '64. Vietnam War happened, made him incredibly unpopular, and he withdrew early in the primaries. So like Biden, he was running. New Hampshire happened. It didn't go well for him. He stepped aside. Johnson was a Democrat. Democrats did not win the election that year. Richard Nixon won the election that year. That was in March when he withdrew. This is a lot later than March.
Late July.
I don't think a lot of people have looked at Harris really strongly as a presidential candidate in 4 years since she ran last time around.
I get that, but she's also been doing the job. She's there in the Oval Office with Joe. You can make the argument that, yeah, we don't know too much about her, but if this happens where she is elected president, and let's say she's elected a second time, that would mean that she has served in that Oval Office for 12 years. If you don't know this person, you better get to know him.
Can I ask a question you are definitely going to delete from the final edit of this?
Please.
Can you name one stance that Kamala Harris has?
I know that she is pro-choice. I know that she was a prosecutor. The notion that she is not tough on crime is laughable.
Except that was an actual point used against her.
True.
In 2020.
But it was also said the opposite way, where black voters said, you locked up a lot of black people. If I'm her, I'm going, I can't make anybody happy. I also know that she was a big advocate for lowering student loan debt.
I think you know more than most people do about her.
Okay, but it's not like she and I talk,
But what I'm saying is, the discussions I've had with a lot of people, some of the discussions have been something along the lines of, what has she done the last 3.5 years? Like, we know she's been vice president, but what has she done while being vice president?
I think that she's been more involved in the day-to-day operations of this country than people give her credit for. If the argument has been that Joe's too old to run the country, well, who else is doing it? I would imagine it's the person who's right next to him.
My final thought.
Yes.
And something that you may actually be able to include in the video. This is a good argument for why we need real primaries when there's a sitting president.
That's a tough sell, my friend. That would mean that you have Democrats who may end up being your cabinet members talking mess about why you wouldn't be the best candidate. Like that would have happened earlier, right?
But that's what's happening on the other side.
True. Now you've got to compete with what? Your vice president who's interested in running?
Why not?
Because then you got to show up Monday after this person has won, It's like, hey, you got any more seats available or what's good? That's tough.